Craig Breedlove had driven 407 miles per hour and forced the ruling body to accept the Jet Unlimited category. Breedlove had used a J-47 jet engine. In Akron, Ohio, one man had managed to get a hold of a powerful J-79 fighter engine. It was a military machine and was not supposed to be in the hands of Art Arfons.
I called GE and told them I had a J-79 and I needed a manual, and they said, no, you don't have one. And the next day there was a man from Washington there and wanted to see if I had a classified engine. He said, you can't have this engine. And I said, I bought it off this man. It was junk. It's my engine. And I never heard no more about it, so I guess I got by with it.
Arfons' engine had been scrapped by the Air Force after a loose bolt had damaged the turbine blades.
Well, they're sort of simple. There are about 1,000 blades in there. And if one was torn up on one side, you flip it over and count the blades, and you either take the opposite one or 120 degrees and take two out. And I did that, and I had about 60-some blades out of the engine when I ran it. And it was balanced good and ran good. First time I fired it, I chained it between two trees and went into power, and it just blew everything out of the way, killed the trees. It was quite an exciting thing to fire that big engine up.
A third challenger, Tom Green, wanted to take on Breedlove and Arfons. He was a trained engineer and had a deep understanding of aerodynamics.
I would say predominantly I learned what engineering I knew and what aerodynamics I knew in the service, having been educated at White Sands Proving Grounds, where we fired the last of the captured B-2 rockets. The aerodynamic thing was just a super personal interest to me. And you know, anybody that keeps looking at the same problem from all the different angles is bound to come up with a logical answer. I didn't contract to be the driver because there were three drivers before me anyhow. Number one, there was Walt Arfons, and he had too many heart attacks. Number two, there was another guy whose name I will not mention, but he was a leadfoot. They didn't want to trust him with it. And the third guy, I made the cockpit too small for him, so he couldn't fit into it.
There was no choice. Green had to drive his own car.
I was sitting there the last day that we were allowed to try for the record, and I thought to myself, am I going to have to come back here next year and go through all this again? Heck no, I'm going for it. I can tell you, and I'll remember the rest of my life. I knew I had to apply more power, so I left the afterburner on longer. The airspeed indicator was traveling this fast, over 400 miles an hour, and wasn't slowing down. I had the most tremendous feeling of power that I've ever had, or that I'll ever have.
Tom Green was the first man to set the new Jet Unlimited record of 413 miles per hour.
After I beat the record, all the other fellows who had had so much of an experience with speed thought, well, if this guy can go out and break it, certainly I can, and they all did.
Less than 24 hours after Green broke the record, Art Arfons was back on the Salt with his car, the Green Monster.
I didn't think I was really taking a risk. The car was built solid and it handled good. It was no problem. I really wasn't scared of it. First pass, I think, was over 300. And the car vibrated a lot, and, you know, it sort of shook so bad it was hard seeing out of the windshield. The next day, I went over 400, and it smoothed out. It seemed like vibration went away, and it was really good. After 400, the faster I went, the better it drove. Well, you didn't know until the timers got word to you. I went real fast, and I got a pretty good record then. Oh, the crew went mad, you know, they really did something. but it wasn't nothing.
He went 434 miles per hour. 8 days later, it was Breedlove's turn. He broke Arfons' record with a 468 mile per hour run. The battle for the Jet Unlimited record had caught the public imagination. Sponsors got behind the two main contenders.
Was it a race between Craig and I, or Goodyear and Firestone? Well, it was a combination of both. We both wanted to go fast, but they wanted us to push a little harder.
The pressure was on Breedlove to put the record beyond reach and become the first man to break 500 miles per hour.
We ran 513 on the run down in the morning. I took pretty good pounding in the car. We made the turnaround at the far end of the course, and we still hadn't used 100% power, so I had not ever operated the parachutes at that speed. The first thing that happened on the return run was that I sheared a suspension bolt, and I was prepared to abort the run, but I found that I could kind of steer into this broken suspension, and I thought, well, you know, I'll just hang in there and see if I can make it through the lights.
Here he comes.
Breedlove was traveling at 569 miles per hour.
So I pushed the button for the parachutes, and I didn't get any parachute response.
He's out of the mile. I see a smoke trail. Something came off of the car.
So then I pushed the button for the emergency, and the gun went off, but I still didn't get a parachute.
He lost his chute. He lost his chute.
I checked the switches, and then I thought, well, you know, you've already heard the powder charge, so it's not an electrical problem. You just don't have any parachutes.
He's in the 3, and he's not slowing down.
At that point in time, obviously, I was in serious trouble.
Man, he's really moving.
Very high speed and literally no way to stop the car. The brakes were useless at that velocity. As I got closer and closer to the phone poles, it was pretty apparent that I was going to impact them. And then I hit that salt embankment, and that put the car airborne. It skipped once, and then the water grabbed it, and it sunk.
Miraculously, Breedlove managed to escape from his sinking car.
What a ride! Now for my next trick! You didn't make it. I'll set my